If you've ever felt like you're having trouble making friends and getting into social circles, you need to watch this video. We're going to explain the one fundamental rule and skill that will help you create lifelong relationships. To do this, you need to stick to one golden rule in order to ensure you're making friends and not enemies. The golden rule of friendship states that if you want people to like you, you have to make them feel good. If you make people feel good, they will want to be around you more. But if you make them feel bad, they will avoid you. It sounds pretty simple, but there are many people that accidentally break this rule. In fact, many people break this rule in 3 different ways. The first way that people often break the golden rule of friendship is by having bad body language. See, the body language you portray can be positive or negative, and often we don't even realize the type of body language we are displaying. It's automatic. Negative body language makes it seem like you aren't interested in someone else and what they're saying, and that you're unhappy when you interact with them. When you speak to someone and they look unhappy and interested, you think to yourself, oh, is what I'm saying boring? Is he even listening to me? Should I just leave? And if this happens over and over again, you will instinctively try to avoid them in the future. Nobody wants to talk to someone who seems uninterested in whatever they're saying. Now, you're probably wondering, what sort of body language should we be using to prevent something like this? Well, for starters, we plan on making several comprehensive videos diving into each aspect of today's topic in the future, so make sure you keep an eye out for those. But the simplified version of it is to stand up or sit up straight, make direct eye contact often, nod, or even let out an expression that shows you're paying attention, like, when something seemed interesting, or wow, when something they said was surprising. Now, let's talk about the second way people often break the golden rule of friendship. So, I remember a specific interaction that I had with a friend a while ago. I was telling him a story of how I did poorly in high school, how I didn't have a good social life and felt like a loser for a big part of my teens, but also how I was able to change that around in university and crawl out of my depression. Now, this is a pretty personal story that's important to me. It's a story that I'm very proud of, and it's a story I don't tell a lot of people. But at around the halfway point, before I could finish my story, my friend interrupted, and he started telling me a story about his struggles in high school, how he had a harder time than me making friends, and how his rock bottom was way worse than mine. You see, the second way someone can break the golden rule of friendship is by making everything about themselves. It is socially and scientifically proven that the majority of people enjoy talking about themselves. It feels good to tell a story and have someone listen to your side. It's supportive and calming. But when someone cuts you off and proceeds to tell their own story, they're doing 2 things. Number 1, they're telling you that they don't care about you or your story, which is a terrible feeling. And number 2, they're telling you that they want you to listen to them to make them feel good, and not the other way around. If you constantly redirect the conversation back to yourself, you're essentially asking everyone else to give you something without getting anything back in return. This is actually often the main reason as to why people don't build long-lasting relationships, because they make everything about themselves. So do your part, give and take. Listen to your friends' stories before you tell yours, and listen actively, like you actually care about them. And if you don't, then maybe it's time to reevaluate who you want to be friends with. Finally, the last aspect of the golden rule of friendship is, don't talk too much about negative things. Think about this. When you talk about something negative, what sort of emotion are you bringing to the table? Depending on what you're talking about, it could be a wide variety of things, such as anger, disgust, jealousy, sadness, etc. But all of these emotions have one thing in common. They don't feel good. When you talk about negative things, you're not only sharing the words and stories, but also the emotions that go along with them. So if you tell a story about how your dog died, people will feel your sadness. If you tell a story about how your girlfriend cheated on you, people will feel some of your anger. There's a time and place for stories like this, but you have to be very careful about these types of things. Don't overshare, and don't constantly talk about them. Constantly talking about negative aspects of life will associate you with all of those negative emotions, and people will learn to avoid you. They will subconsciously relate negative experiences to being around you, and over time, stop spending time in this negative space you've created. Breaking this golden rule and its 3 key pillars over and over again will lead you to eventually make more enemies than friends. It's a simple rule that you must keep in mind during all of your future interactions. We hope you enjoyed and learned something new today. If you did, consider leaving a like and subscribing for more future content.